All right, so this one time, Susan and I, we were hiking through the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon. And we went on this trail. It was a 30-mile backpacking loop. And we went in the middle of the week, and there was nobody on the trail. And before we left, one of the people that was our guide, who showed us what trail to take and where to go, said, "You don't need to worry. There's nothing to worry about. There's no bears. There's no snakes. There's no nothing. You'll be fine. Just go with the flow. Have a good time." Well, it was the middle of the week, and we were hiking along, and it was a two-day hiking trip. Actually, it was a 3-day hiking trip. But on the second day, Susan and I had not seen a single person since we left the beginning of the loop. Well, we're hiking through this area, and we decided that instead of taking the typical route where you would usually go, we decided that we were going to take a bit of an alternate scenic route, which was on the map, but it wasn't the preferred way to go. So we take this route, and we're hiking along, and it's through this old mining road, and the grass is really high, and there's this path that's kind of overgrown, and it was just like the perfect place to see a snake. So we're hiking along, and I said, "Susan, stay close, because this could get bad." And all of a sudden, right in front of me, there is this gigantic rattlesnake that just pops up, and he rattles his tail at a deafening sound. I mean, I never heard a rattlesnake before, out in the wild. And when I heard this thing, I was just blown away by how loud it was. And because there was no one around, we hadn't seen anybody, I was like really cautious. I was like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening right now." And I just froze. And so I had a choice. Susan and I, we could either try and jump over the rattlesnake, who was right in the middle of the trail, or we could figure out another way to go. And you know what? I think there's a lot of times in our lives when we have caution signs that come up in our life, like you just saw in Bruce Almighty. That he was following these caution signs and saying, "Look out, don't go this way, turn around." Same thing with me on the trail. That snake was right in the middle of the trail. That rattle was giving me an obvious warning sign that it was time for me to turn around. So I had some choices to make. Would I turn around, or would I continue on? And when it comes to our life, I think the same thing happens. There are warning signs, there are rattles that happen in our life that are just as clear as a rattlesnake rattling its tail, telling you to look out. But sometimes we forget to look at it. So what are some things in your life that maybe are warning signs that you're maybe not looking at like they're actual warning signs? Like, for instance, maybe your small group leader or your discussion group leader is giving you some advice about something in your life, and they're telling you, "Hey, you're doing something, and it's probably not the wisest choice." Or it could be, have you ever had a cringe factor? Do you know what the cringe factor is? It's like that moment whenever you're doing something and you shouldn't be doing it, but you kind of do it anyway, and you just go with the flow. But if you ever had that cringe factor, deep down inside that you shouldn't be doing that, and yet you still do it anyway. Or maybe you have like a whole group of people that you trust with your whole heart, and every single person that you go to is saying to you, "Hey, you're doing this one thing in your life, and you shouldn't be doing it, and you should probably figure out a new path." If that's you, if you have something in your life where you're experiencing that cringe factor, or you're experiencing one of your small group leaders or your discussion group leaders telling you that it's time to take a new path, or whether it's a bunch of group of people that's telling you, "Hey, listen, we love you, we've been through this before, and we don't want you to make the same mistake," then it's time to check out what you're doing and make sure you're following what's right. All right, so there's this Bible verse that I think totally connects what it is we're talking about right now. In the book of Proverbs 27, verse 12, it says this: "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and suffer for it." You see, there's this type of person who's called a prudent person, and then there's this type of person called a simple person. Now, what in the world is a prudent person? Well, I know we don't really use words like that today, so basically you could substitute the word wise for the word prudent. So the wise person, they understand, they see danger coming. But the simple, and the way you could describe simple is just by someone who's naive or just doesn't get it or is foolish. Or the foolish person, man, they just walk right by the warning signs. And I think there's a really important thing that we can learn from the scripture. It says that the prudent and the simple, they both see the warning signs. Both of them see it. So whether you're foolish or whether you're wise, you see the warning signs, but there's a huge difference between the two. And the difference is that the wise person sees it and they get away from what is about to happen. But the foolish, man, they just keep walking right on by it. All right, so think about this verse in terms of me and Susan with that rattlesnake that one day. I mean, we walked right in front of this rattlesnake and we had two options. We could either try and step over the rattlesnake and get bit, or we could figure out that we needed to take a step back and take a new path to get around where the rattlesnake was. It's the same thing with the Bruce Almighty video clip that you just watched. There were warning signs in his life and he had the option. He could either look at those warning signs and follow what they said, or he could just drive on by and run right into a telephone pole. I think that a lot of times in our own life, we have signs in our life that are just as clear as day, just like that rattlesnake that was in front of me on that trail. Man, I had the opportunity to step over it or to find a new path. And just like you have the opportunity to see something that is right in front of you, that is going to get you into trouble. And the question is, are you going to try and step over it and move beyond it, or are you going to try and find a new path? I think so many times in our life, if it was a rattlesnake that was in front of you, you would obviously turn around. But for some reason, for so many of us, there are times in our life whenever we don't follow the signs. There are caution signs all around us. And for some reason, we decide not to look at them. All right, so the Bible, it says that both the wise and the fools, they are both going to see the warning signs. The question is, how will they respond? Because their response is totally different. So my question to you is, how will you respond? When you have warning signs in your life and they are as clear as day, how are you going to respond? So I don't know about you, but I don't want to waste my life. I don't want to come to the end of my life and go, oh man, there were so many warning signs, so many caution signs in my life that I just walked right on by when I had this opportunity to take the right path. So I have a question for you. Is there a path that you're heading down right now that you shouldn't be on? And are you willing to turn around? Because if you are, there's still time. There's always time. No matter how far down that path you are, there's still time to turn around. But don't keep going. The Bible, it says that the wise, they see that there is trouble coming and they take refuge. But the simple, they just keep walking and they suffer for it. So my question is, which one are you?